Joe Biden, I would say at this point, probably wants to lose the election. And I'm going to say this because he recently made a speech, gave some commentary on the crackdown that happened to the protesters, not only at Columbia University, but nationwide. And, I could read an article here. I'll save the article for last, but I'll pull up this video here where we see Biden's hypocrisy at its finest. And would you be surprised and shocked that even the nutless wonder himself, the spineless worm, the gutless wonder, the cuck himself, even Bernie Sanders, even stated that Biden was right to condemn the hate and violence at pro-Gaza protests. That's right. He went to defend his good friend Joe. What did his friend Joe say? What did Joe Biden say? Well, let's go ahead and pull up this video here. Where all in all, he's going to tell the American people how to protest. But it's a good thing that I have the internet, as do all of you. And we're going to also time travel to the year of 2020, when Biden gave commentary on the Black Lives Matter protest that was happening under the Trump administration. But first, let's focus on what happened yesterday. Joe Biden giving his 2 cents on how to properly do a protest.
So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos.
Interesting. But do you think Biden's opinion has changed, especially with the recent military actions that's taking place in Gaza?
The protest forced you to reconsider any of the policies with regard to the region?
No. Thank you.
Mr. President, do you think the
No.
National Guard should intervene?
No.
Mr. President,
Do you agree with what the students are calling for?
Mr. President.
And that's the president of, get this, these United States. So I want to stop right here. And once again, and audience, if I'm being too cruel, maybe too judgmental towards the protesters, this is where I'm gonna have to call them out. You have seen firsthand what this administration thinks about the crisis in Gaza. This administration was indifferent to many of the protesters all across this country. It has constantly dismissed and either that played down the uncommitted vote. So for those of you who might want to vote this election cycle, are you going to allow the vote blue, no matter who sycophants, to bully you into voting for Biden? Because Biden has already told you, and there's a whole treasure trove of videos and statements now, how he really feels about all the protests nationwide. He doesn't care. Biden and his administration knew that during October, the IDF was striking at civilian targets. Also, this administration has constantly been given the middle finger by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This administration and many people who are part of the Democratic Party are owned by AIPAC and other corporate interests and other pro-Israel lobby groups. So what are you going to do? That is my question. Because Biden and the Democrats are going to whisper sweet nothings in your ear, saying that they're going to care about, or put on this mask saying that they care about what's happening in Gaza or any other progressive issue. You're going to have to be consistent on this. Don't let them bully you. But by the way, just to show you what kind of a hypocrite the Democrats are, let's time travel. And this is for all those people who perhaps maybe are on the fence thinking, should I or should I not vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats? Just remember, this was Biden in 2020. Let's pull up this video here just to remind you that they are hypocrites and that they will lie to you. So don't fall for the propaganda of, oh, you better vote for Biden because Trump's bad. No, you have a choice of not voting or voting independent third party. That's your choice. Because the Democrats, especially right here, here's Joe Biden giving his commentary on the protests during the Trump administration in 2020.
Once in a while. If he did, he'd find a thing called the First Amendment. And what it says in the beginning, it says the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition their government for redress of grievances. That's kind of an essential notion built into this country. Mr. President, that's America. That's America. No horses rising up on their hind legs to push back peaceful protest. Not using the American military to move against the American people.
Wait, what? Hold on, Joe. Weren't police departments, especially in NYC, using like military-grade weaponry and vehicles to remove the protesters? What didn't the police just go in there en masse because Eric Adams said he had a feeling that there was a bad person or bad people there?
This is a nation of values. Our freedom to speak is a cherished knowledge that lives inside every American almost from the time you're a kid. We're going to not allow any president to quiet our voice. We won't let those who see this as an opportunity to sow chaos throw up a smokescreen to distract us from very real and legitimate grievances at the heart of these protests. We can't leave this moment. We can't leave this moment thinking that we can once again turn away and do nothing. We can't do that this time.
Wow, Biden, you were singing a different tune and a little bit more coordinated, more put together. Hey, that's what happens with age. But that was Biden in 2020. And so to all the protesters out there, when it was advantageous for him to stand in quote unquote solidarity with Black Lives Matter and all the other protests and people, pushing back against the orange boogeyman, where is he now? Oh, that's right, nowhere, because it was an act. So in a hypothetical scenario, should Trump win the White House? I'll understand if the first protest, especially here in Chicago, all the protesters decide to march and protest in front of Trump Tower. But as the years go on, and if that's all what you protesters are going to do, especially here in Chicago, just protest in front of Trump Tower, not protest in front of other politicians' offices, because Trump Tower is a private building here in Chicago, I'm not going to take you seriously. This is something right now. This is a moment in time in which people have to put their foot down. And don't expect your heroes to help you, like AOC and Ilhan Omar, who show up for a photo op and then leave when the going gets tough. Because that's who the Democrats are. They show up to make you feel good, and they leave as soon as there's a sign of trouble. Here, let's talk about a hero. Let's bring up a hero. Why not? Let's bring up the greatest hero of them all, the nutless wonder himself, Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders says Biden was right to condemn the hate and violence at pro-Gaza protests, but draws a distinction with those there for the right reasons. Wow. Let's go ahead and hear it out. What do you got to say, you cuck? And this is, again, I'm trying not to talk down to the protesters, but I've seen how people will bend over or bend the knee because they got Trump derangement syndrome. If you really want to make a change, you're also going to have to fight the Democrats too. That's including people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. That's if you got that heart to do it, because they're not going to show up to help you.
Do you believe President Biden got it just right, or what would you say in his first comments about these protests?
Well, he's exactly right, is that we don't want protests that are violent, and we absolutely will not tolerate anti-Semitism.
What a nutless wonder. No one at those protests were saying anything anti-Semitic. Hey, Bernie, they were protesting to stop a genocide, so that no more men, women, children die. Just throwing it out there, Bernie. Just throwing it out there.
First comments about these protests.
Well, he's exactly right, is that we don't want protests that are violent, And we absolutely will not tolerate anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, or any form of bigotry. Of course, he's right on that. But I think, Christian, it is important to understand why these protesters are out there. And they are out there not because they are pro-Hamas. They are out there because they are outraged by what the Israeli government is now doing in Gaza, which is bringing unbelievable harm, not just to the terrorist organization, the Hamas, but to the entire Palestinian people. And that's why these anti-war demonstrators are out there. They do not want to see a situation continue where 110,000 Palestinians out of 5% of the population have been killed or wounded, where children now face starvation. Hundreds of thousands of children face starvation.
Then what are you going to do about it, Bernie? Because a lot of your fantastic friends in the Democratic Party and in the Republican Party are owned by AIPAC. That organization, including Elizabeth Warren herself. Are you actually going to take the initiative and lead, or wait, you're going to stand in solidarity with your good friend Joe?
Because Israel is refusing to allow humanitarian aid to get to where it has to go, where 2/3 of the homes in Gaza have been destroyed or damaged, where the entire civilian infrastructure, water, electricity has been annihilated, where educational systems, every university in Gaza has been bombed. So I think it's important to understand why these young people are out there, and they are out there for the right reasons, to protest U.S. continued military aid and money to a right-wing extremist Netanyahu government, which is in a destructive war against the Palestinian people.
There's the cuck. But he's not going to do anything. Biden condemned for ahistorical and politically self-deletion. Attack on campus protests. President Biden faced immediate backlash Thursday for characterizing pro-Palestinian demonstrators that have erupted on university campuses across the country as lawless and violent, a narrative likely to further alienate the thousands of students who have joined peaceful protests against Israel's U.S.-backed war on Gaza in recent weeks. In a brief, unscheduled remarks delivered from the White House, Biden acknowledged that peaceful protest is the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But just don't make it uncomfortable. And whatever you do, don't criticize our policies. Say it with me, folks. What could possibly go wrong? But he then proceeded to cast recent campus demonstrations as abhorrent, using instances of property damage and broadly paint student protesters as out of control, giving a pass to police forces and pro-Israeli mobs that have brutally attacked peaceful encampments. Biden, who has armed Israel's military to the hilt, also conflated trespassing and disruptions of day-to-day campus activities, including classes and graduations, with violence, saying none of this is a peaceful protest. Wow, Biden. Edward Ahmed Mitchell, a civil rights attorney and national deputy chair of the Council of American Islamic Relations, said Thursday that President Biden's claim that dissent must never lead to disorder defies American history, from the Boston Tea Party to tactics that civil rights activists, Vietnam War protesters, and anti-apartheid activists used to confront injustice. And if President Biden is truly concerned about the conflict on college campuses, he should specifically condemn law enforcement and pro-Israeli mobs for attacking students and stop enabling the genocide in Gaza that has triggered the protests. Wow. Seriously, to these protesters, to all these activists, I would be very happy if I see some consistency. Because no matter what happens on election night, whether Biden gets elected into office or it's Trump, you're going to have to keep this movement going forward. Roe v. Wade died under Biden. The kids are still in cages under Biden. Our economy is shite under Biden. Biden has gotten us involved in ridiculous military conflicts, and we are spending billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of our money for these ridiculous wars. We have a massive wave of censorship. And all of this, people are saying, would happen under Trump. But Biden is the one opening the pathway. Now, Trump, he's not going to be any better. He's part of the system too. But will these activists and organizers actually do the unthinkable? And that is actually still keep on fighting Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that means even going toe-to-toe with people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and the whole squad. See, they'll put on that mask, smile and nod, say they agree with you, and then dismiss you. They don't like you. They don't think about you. They don't respect you. After all of this, tell me, why should anybody consider wasting any red cent on the Democrats when all what they do is send you emails? Because all what those emails say is, please give us money so we could stop Trump and the Republicans. Please give us money and we'll do that thing that you want. And Biden's already dictating to the protesters how to protest. When, if you go back from that clip that I played earlier from 2020, Joe Biden was saying, oh, these protesters have a right to protest. The police shouldn't be cracking down on them. And that was 2020 when Trump was president. But it was advantageous for him to leech on. And that's how he won. By the skin of his teeth, of course, because people were bullied, people harassed, people were felt ashamed because of how 2016 played out. Every one of the vote blue, no matter who sycophants, were the first ones, the main ones, to say to all of you, if you don't help us, you're helping Trump. You're a bad person. You must show consistency and the willingness to fight. Bernie Sanders himself will not fight against his good friend, Joe Biden. AOC, who is quoted as saying that Biden has exceeded expectations, is not going to fight against Joe Biden or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi. You're going to have to show consistency, and you're going to have to fight. You're on your own. Nobody in Washington, D.C. is going to stick their necks out for you. And that's the lesson here.